Good afternoon. We are continuing with the inquiry. I just want to see who the next presenter is from. It's the Dental Professions Association. Sorry, are you the presenter?
Yes.
Okay, what is your name?
My name is Thabo Twala. I'm the chairman of the Dental Professionals Association.
Thabo Twala.
Yes.
Is it Mr. Twala? Dr. Twala?
Yes.
All right, Dr. Twala, I need to administer your oath. Will you say after me, I, and your full name?
I, Thabo Twala,
Hereby swear
that
the evidence I will give
the evidence that I will give
shall be the truth,
the whole truth,
and nothing else but the truth.
and nothing else but the truth.
Raise your right hand and say, so help me God.
So help me God.
Thank you. So the floor is yours. I see that you've just handed us a document called Survey Results. Take us through how you want to structure your presentation.
Thank you, Chair, and other commissioners. From the Dental Professional Association, commonly known as the TPA, we are really grateful for being afforded this opportunity to come and present to the Commission. As practitioners in this particular space, the issues that are being ventilated in this Commission are actually very close to us, and it affects a lot of our members greatly. And I hope by making a presentation, I will be able to assist the Commission in its investigations. Chair, I think I should start first by giving an introduction about the Dental Professional Association. I will therefore follow on the issues that relate to the scope of this commission as regards Section 59 and its application by medical schemes. Right. Thank you, Chair. Just by way of introduction, the Dental Professional Association is an association of dental professionals. In the main, dentists, but we also have dental therapists in our association and oral hygienists. Our membership is predominantly the black dental professionals. Our association was formed in 1992. And it has been existing up until now. However, safe to say that I can just mention that around about 1998, we went into a merger with the South African Dental Association, which merger unraveled about 6 years ago. Mainly, part of the reasons why the merger unraveled was precisely because we felt that the South African Dental Association was not really protecting the interest of the members, in particular the black dentists. That is when the decision was then taken, to move out of the Dental Association and once again become an independent association. Mr. Chair, I have provided a survey because, as you will appreciate, we have members coming to the association complaining about being harassed and being made to enter into settlements with a variety of medical schemes. However, it is very difficult to collate the data as regards that, because those kind of issues come as and when, and I may just say that given our, the way that we want to spend our resources, we don't usually spend as much on these particular issues. However, they are very important to the livelihoods of our members. And as well, I think this will also give you an indication of the kind of association that the Dental Professionals Association is. So if we go into the survey results, for instance, you will see that the people who responded to the survey, there were dentists, the dental specialists, dental therapists. And as you can see there, that about 60% of the people who responded were dentists. And in our association, a majority of our members are female, as it is reflected in the question number 3. Most of our members are in full-time private practice, about 80%. I will just quickly go through some of the things that are important. Where our members are located, the vast majority are in Gauteng, followed by Northwest and in Limpopo. However, the Dental Professional Association is a national association, and we have got members across the country. A very important issue that I think I should mention relates to Q7, exactly where our members are practicing. So according to this survey, for instance, you will realize that 43% of our members practice in the city centers. 40% practice in the townships. And
Sorry, it's Q7 in this thing.
Q7 on the survey.
No, but I don't have Q7. I've got, it moves from Q6 to Q8 and then to Q9.
I'm not too sure why you don't. I hope the other commissioners do.
Do you?
No.
No one has it.
Okay, but in any case, from my sheet, it's not really much. I think we can get it even afterwards. The issues relating to Q7.
You'll provide us with the missing.
Yes, for sure.
Page.
Most definitely.
Continue then.
Okay. So 43% of our members practice in the city centers, 40% in the townships, about 18% in the rural areas. And another 18% will practice in what we can call suburban areas. Right, so that will be the suburbs and so on, yeah. All right. Q9, I hope you do have Q9. Okay, Q8 relates to the remuneration. So about 68, safe to say 70% of our practices depend mainly on medical aid for reimbursement. And about 28% is a combination of both medical aid and cash. So indeed, medical aid for us is a very important source of funding for the services that we provide. Q9, I think that it is very important because an impression can easily be created that dentists and doctors are actually making a lot of money from medical schemes and so on. But as we can see from the results of the survey, close to 60% of our member practices actually have a turnover of less than 100,000 rands per month. About 80% have turnover of less than 200,000 rands a month. So, these are professionals who have spent many years studying. They've invested a lot of money to set up a dental practice. A dental practice is not very cheap to set up. And yet, these are the financial outcomes. This is not earnings, this is turnover that members are generating in their practices.
Does this not change with experience?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. So a dentist who enters in practice yesterday will earn exactly the same as the dentist who entered in practice 20 years ago.
No, what I mean is, at less than 100,000 a month, so one can accept that for new entrants. But over time, you know, as you gain experience, more exposure and more patience, the income would increase. I mean, or are you saying it wouldn't increase?
I think as I make a presentation, it will show that it is actually possible for somebody who has been practicing for 20 years to be still earning 100,000. Okay. If we then go to, I would like to present Q11, which I think...
Just a quick question before you
Yes.
go there. I might have missed it, but what is your total membership?
It's slightly below 500 members.
Just below 500.
Yes.
So what was your response rate on the survey?
Our response rate was 118 people responded.
So 118 out of 500.
Yes. All right. The question that speaks to the terms of reference of this commission is actually Q11, where we ask people if their practices have been audited by medical schemes. And 56% said indeed they have been audited by medical schemes. Q12, just excuse me, I'll just need to. Q12 relates to the financial settlements that members have made as a result of, you know, either the investigations or negotiations or whatever you may call them that will.
Sorry, can you read out what the question was in Q12, because that seems to be cut off, and
Yes.
Q14 seems to deal with financial settlements.
Yes, just one moment. I just need to get it on my iPad.
When did you do this survey?
The survey was done in July, I think just after the announcement.
So it was done in preparation for this inquiry?
Yes, sir. I'm struggling to get all the data. However, because my papers are also cut off a bit, and I'm struggling with my technology, or maybe I could have another. The question is not very clear. However, the issue was that those people who have been investigated by medical schemes, did they, you know, make any form of financial settlements with the medical schemes? That's more or less what the question was relating to. And about 56% who had been investigated said that they have made financial settlements to medical schemes.
Mr. Twala, can I just also ask you a question about the survey and how we should give it meaning? It seems to me that it's not representative of your membership if you only have 118 responses out of 500. Would that be correct?
I do think that it is representative in the sense that our members are both from the public and the private sectors. In my view, 118 is actually a very reasonable sample, I would say.
If it was a random sample, I think it would be, I'm certainly not a statistician, but I wonder if it was a random sample, it seemed to be very representative. But if it's self-selecting and that people actually responded, is there not an argument that there are approximately 380 people who might give completely different answers and then skew the results?
Yes, but I take what the point that you are making. However, you have to appreciate the fact that like I've said, some of our members are in the public sector, and they may not necessarily have had an interest in the specific survey.
How many?
I won't be able to, I think about 2/3 of our membership is in the private sector, and about 1/3 is in the public sector.
So you would say this is representative of the 2/3?
I would say so, yes.
Yes, please proceed.
Thank you. Okay, and then, yeah, I think the last point would be that have they ever experienced spying in their practices? And about almost half of the people who responded said that they've experienced some form of spying in their practice. We didn't go into the details of what it entails. All right, so I think that is the issue. I would just park the survey results for now, and I think I've managed to also give the commissioners an indication of the membership profile of the DPA. All right. Getting to the issues, in preparation for this commission, I had a look at the data from the Council for Medical Schemes regarding the reimbursements of dentists. My calculations were that in 1992, the total share of dentists in the medical scheme funding pool was about 9.7%. Around 2000, when the regulations on managed health care were introduced, the reimbursement to dentists was 6.1%. And then in 2017, it was less than 2%. That is the calculations that I made in preparations for this. So as we can see, over time, the remuneration to dentists has been declining. I might say at an alarming rate. However, for me, the decline is mainly related to one thing and one thing only, and that is managed care. So you will know that when managed care was introduced around 2000, in the main, it was meant to provide low-cost options or other possibilities for people who could not afford medical schemes. Low-cost options were created so that they could easily afford them. And in those low-cost options, managed care rules were introduced. Now, managed care rules basically, they design a set of rules and protocols according to which all members of the scheme should be treated. Various ways are made to get members to adhere to that. One of the ways is by making them join what is called a providers network. I think in certain instances it is called DSPs and so on. But us in dentistry, we understand it better as providers networks. To join the providers networks, among other things, is that the provider must agree to abide by the managed care protocols that have been given, number one. Number two is that you need to comply to the tariff that is being provided. And there are incentives or disincentives, about joining or not joining. But I think mainly it is the disincentives, because if ever you don't join the managed care network, the medical scheme, what they do is that they pay you less for the services that you provide compared to somebody who is not on the network. They can also exclude you completely from reimbursement. Now, what has happened actually is that managed care has over time been creeping. So from low-cost options, managed care in most medical schemes, and especially those medical schemes where the majority of the members are Black people, managed healthcare has actually moved from moved from low-cost options to all the options that are there. So all options now are under managed care. And what managed care actually does is that it actually reduces the basket of services that providers are able to, to provide to their patients. There's hundreds of services, of treatments that a dentist is able to offer. But however, what managed care does is that it reduces that basket of services to about 4 or 5 services that will be reimbursed ultimately. So effectively what it does is that, especially in the case of dentists, it reduces them to, and I mean no disrespect, but it reduces them to becoming dental therapists or oral hygienists. And it's almost impossible to actually serve your patients to the best of your skill if ever you are treating them under managed care protocols. So for us, managed care has actually been very detrimental, to the services that we are able to provide, to the development of dentistry as a profession, and most definitely financially. So just back to the question that you asked earlier on, what has been happening over time is that because of the introduction of managed care and the reduction in the basket of services, those practitioners who have been in practice for a long time will actually experience a decline in reimbursement as a result of the issues that I've outlined. So ultimately, there's only a few in the industry. There are certain codes, procedure codes that we normally use to claim for the treatment that we give. Ultimately, what happens is that there's only a few codes that can be reimbursed, and it is not very difficult to see why practitioners will then use those specific codes more than any others, because those are the ones that will be reimbursed. However, the system needs a lot of policing as well. So medical schemes and managed care companies, they've developed what they call algorithms and so on. But basically algorithms are basically, well, at least in our understanding, they are just almost like speed traps. So if you look at the algorithm, you'll be able to see that, look, man, there's probably something not right with the claiming pattern here, right? Or you don't even need an algorithm, you just need somebody who is a dentist or has an experience to see that there's a problem here. And I do think that medical schemes do identify those kinds of anomalies. But then what they don't do is that they don't call out the practitioner when they pick up a problem. They let it go on and on and on. Then 2 years later or 3 years later, then they call them in. And then they throw the practitioner with a bill of about R1 million and whatever have you not, that they're being accused of doing. So that is one way that ultimately medical schemes will deal with providers. However, there's another way. They also send investigators into practices of practitioners. I believe they also have installed spy cameras in other people's practices and so on. So in other words, they send police to come and police the system, and intelligence agents and so on, to do that kind of work. Now, having found whatever evidence that they would have found, then they call in a person, then they prosecute themselves, the individual, who's being accused. They themselves prosecute this person, and they themselves pass judgment on this particular person.
Butwala, do you have evidence of these submissions that you're making? Does your association assist your members in these investigations, and do you have records to substantiate your submissions?
What I would say is that I know for a fact that, you see, what happens is that the medical schemes call out practitioners in private to go and discuss these things. The settlements that they reach with them are in private. We have certainly represented certain practitioners, but I do not think that all the practitioners that we've been able to represent, reflect the true picture of the practitioners that have been dealt with by medical schemes. I hope I'm answering your question.
No, yes, you are. I mean, the question, I suppose, you are saying here that people have spy cameras installed. Where is the evidence of that? You see, so you're saying people, you identify the problem, you don't fix it now, you wait 3 years down the line, and then you try to claw back. Where is the evidence of that? I mean, so if you've got specific examples that you can give to us, also which scheme is installing cameras at your members' practices. You see. So it's that sort of detail we're looking for, or are you just basing it on anecdotes, or have you actually got examples?
Yes, it's anecdotal. However, if you follow what I said I believe that even cameras are being installed. In terms of spying, for instance, our survey results says that members have said, yes, we have been spied upon. But I also said that I believe that cameras have been installed. What I know is that certain members in the association and in other associations, individually they have made submissions to the commission. And then those who do have evidence, I would really hope that they have submitted that specific evidence.
Yes, no, but you see, they have in relation to their practices and in relation to their occupations. You are here for the dentists that are members of your association. The question is whether or not the dentists who are members of your association also have similar experiences, and if they do, where is the hard evidence?
In relation to the cameras, Chair.
Don't limit it to cameras. I mean, the complaints you've been outlining.
Yes.
Do you have anything to substantiate them?
Okay. I will say that as a dental practitioner myself, I made a submission individually, separate from the submission that has been made. And in the submission that I made, I detailed my own experiences, not in relation to spying, but in relation to the investigations that have been conducted against my practice. So in my specific case, I have submitted that evidence.
What is the evidence? What happened?
All right. So in the submission that I made, I say that the modus operandi of medical schemes is that whenever they suspect that there is something wrong, the first thing that they do is that they suspend payments to the practice. When they suspend payments to your practice, they put you in a very desperate position because all practices need cash flow in order to function. When that happens, they would then want all manner of records, your clinical records, for instance. They would want.
Are you describing what happened to you?
Yes.
So you were placed on suspension?
Yes, several times.
When and by which schemes, and for what reason?
I've been placed on suspension by all manner of schemes, starting with GEMS, PolMed. So what happens is that in the industry, there are medical scheme administrators. So you'll find, for instance, MedScheme. MedScheme administers several medical schemes. So when they stop payment to your practice, they actually stop payments from all the schemes that they administer. All right, so at any one point in time, if MedScheme suspends you from payment, you know, you won't get paid from PolMed, you won't get paid from SABC or Bonitas or whoever else is being managed by a medical scheme. I mean, at this point in time, I think if the record that I've sent to the commission is available, you know, I'm dealing with the very same issue with MedScheme, but it is not MedScheme. If my memory serves me well, around 2008, I had a similar problem with HorseMed. However, at that time, I was probably naive and so on. So I refused to make any kind of submission to the medical schemes because I was angry about the manner in which I was being treated. They stopped payments to my practice. I went to court on the issue, and I lost the court case. Unfortunately. Now, the lesson that I learned from that was that when the medical scheme, and subsequent to that, I never got reimbursement again from HorseMed. But the lesson that I learned was that if the medical scheme wants records, in as much as it may make you upset or angry, in order to maintain the financial viability of your practice, the easiest thing to do is to submit the records. And over time, I've received those requests and I've submitted it. And I suppose that was the end of the story. But it's never ending. It comes all the time.
You said something about MedScheme. MedScheme represents several different, MedScheme is an administrator for several different schemes.
Yes.
If you have found, if you have been found to have billed irregularly, whatever the example might be in relation to one scheme, MedScheme suspends payment on behalf of all the schemes that it administers. Is that what you're saying?
That is correct, yes.
Where is the evidence of this, Dr. Twala? I mean, this is part of the problem now. We're trying to understand. You see, if you make an allegation that you are wrong on Bonitas, then you're cancelled in 5 other schemes, even though there is no irregularity in relation to those schemes. Where is the evidence?
Chair, in my view, if you, I would really ask you to look at the submission that I made as an individual, because in that submission, for instance, it may have been around 2016 when I had a similar problem, and then at the time I approached the Dental Protection Society. They provide professional indemnity for healthcare professionals, and I wanted assistance, and they very kindly found I think Weber Wenzel attorneys to represent me, and the opinion of Weber Wenzel attorneys, I think I did include it in my individual submission, and this was precisely the issues that I was most unhappy about. That MedScheme is suspending payments, to all medical schemes that they administer. Safe to say that ultimately I abandoned the court case, and the reason I abandoned it was for only one reason. At the time, MedScheme was administering, at least where I'm practicing, fewer medical schemes, SABC and a few others, which were not significant to my practice. So I was prepared to go, all the way to fight this issue. However, when MedScheme took over administration of PolMed, now PolMed is a big medical scheme where I'm practicing, and they stopped payments to my practice from PolMed. I had no choice but to abandon the legal challenge, because now I was under significant financial pressure to toe the line, as it were. Safe to say that I did submit the records that they were looking for, and payments to my practice were unlocked. But that evidence in the individual submission that I made, it is there.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Chair. So I think that's basically the issues that I wanted to say. One other issue that we made mention of in our affidavit is that it is our view that there's always a perverse incentive or a perverse relationship that exists between managed care companies and medical scheme administrators and the companies that will be doing the forensic audits. For instance, the audits of med scheme are done by, I think, Afrocentric forensics, something like that. And everybody knows that Afrocentric is a major shareholder in med scheme. So a subsidiary of Afrocentric is actually doing this particular work. And it is also possible that there are some financial rewards that arise due to the perverse relationship that exists both to medical scheme administrators and the companies that do the investigations. Now, I've been able to show you that dentists, for instance, by no chance are the biggest drivers of costs in healthcare. The real drivers of costs are well known, and it's hospitals, specialists, pharmaceuticals, and administration services. I really wonder if some of the actions that are being taken against providers similarly are being directed at the people who are actually responsible for the rising costs of healthcare. And in conclusion, Chair, I would just like to say that a figure is bandied about a lot of the times that they call it fraud, waste, and abuse that is taking place is costing the industry about 25 billion rands per annum and so on. It may or may not be true. However, in my view, this figure falls into insignificance if we look at, the losses that practitioners are incurring as a result of the actions of medical schemes. This refers, for instance, to non-payment of legitimate services.
And what is that figure?
No, I don't know the figure.
What do you calculate the loss to the?
No, I haven't taken the time to calculate it, but I know, for instance, in my practice, the loss, we have a bad debt due to non-payments or short payments of between 10 and 20% of whatever is billed. And it is, I think each and every practitioner will tell you the same story, that they are incurring losses. So equally, we are experiencing significant financial losses as a result of the actions on medical schemes. And finally, the fact that being locked into network agreements and so on, and receiving below inflation tariff increases over time has actually resulted in massive losses to us as professionals and as dentists and health practitioners. Yeah, that will be my submission.
The complaint in paragraph 10 of your submission that the Council for Medical Schemes has generally been reluctant to deal with complaints from our members. and Association Against Medical Schemes. I mean, what is the basis for that complaint?
Thank you, Chair. Personally, as the chairman of the DPA, on several occasions, I've tried to engage with Council of Medical, not only on the issues relating to members, but on issues relating to the industry in general, in particular managed care, because I wanted to raise specific issues regarding managed care. I did not even get the benefit of a response. Before I personally went to ask the dental protection for assistance legally, individually I tried to get engaged. I tried to engage with the Council for Medical Schemes, and there was no response. I know for a fact that there are other practitioners who had similar problems regarding investigations by medical schemes. They tried to go to the Council for Medical Schemes, and they didn't find any joy.
Where are those examples? I mean, you see, if you've made it's a sort of serious allegation that says the CMS is reluctant to deal with complaints lodged by your members and by your association. But I don't know what is the value of that in the absence of the actual complaints and the responses by the CMS.
I take your point, Chair. I take your point. If I don't know if it's possible to provide, because I'm on this particular issue, I've got no doubt that myself and many of our members have got the same experience, which can show that CMS is absolutely not interested in dealing with these issues.
Will you finish it to the Secretariat?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Do you have anything else to say?
Yes, I think that completes my submission, Chair.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Toiler. Thank you for your association's time and effort in preparing the written submission and in coming to present here. We will be in contact for further information should it become necessary.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
The inquiry will adjourn until the 29th of August at 10 o'clock.